Welcome. We are visiting the values of a Privy Council judgment authored by Sir Shadi Lal, which has been admired and agreed by Lord Chancellor of the Privy Council. This judgment is a very beautiful piece which, if is chased, we will be appreciating how the language as language and how the language as a law language are to be taken for interpretation and meanings simultaneously. Now, today we are at para 5 of this judgment. This judgment is of 7 paras. In all, there are 36 sentences. Today, we are at para 5. It reads as, it is therefore clear that in the event of a conflict between the agnate ancient text writers and commentators, the opinion of the latter must be accepted. See, what principle is being settled here? It is therefore clear that in the event of a conflict between the ancient text writers and the commentators, the opinion of the latter must be accepted. So it is a principle of interpretation. Meanings of the language here are merged in the rule of interpretation. So science of interpretation, the art of interpretation is to be learned. Art of interpretation is going to help us. We are imbibing the values of this judgment on this aspect as well. The art of interpretation. Here the rule of interpretation is given. In case of a conflict between the ancient writers' works and the later commentators, then the commentators are to be followed. Therefore, here this rule, if is imbibed, will help us have appreciation of the ancient times values which are being followed, which have become customs and which have become uses, particularly in the context of Hindu society, in respect of the Hindu laws and Hindu law of succession. This law was amended and is again amended, and at present the shape of this law is absolutely different than that of the ancient times. However, this judgment is of historic importance, and the importance is how the law evolves, how the law evolution is to be interpreted and imbibed by us. The second sentence of this paragraph is, know the words as some affirm used by Virid Manu in the extract quoted in the Mitakshara do not show that he himself was in favor of extending the meaning of Sambodhika to include agnates beyond 14th degree. So see this sentence. This sentence is, on the one hand, is making a continuity of thought, the logic in which the judgment is flowing, and on the other hand, it is taking us through how the Vrid Manu quotation was quoted, and in that there was a phrase, as some affirm. This phrase, as some affirm is being interpreted here and is being taken here as that was not opinion of the person. It was he was just quoting. So it was a quotation, and this quotation was taking back to the author of the quotation. Now, third sentence. He merely cited the opinion which was expressed by other writer. See, this sentence is so small. He makes it specific that the above quotation from Vridmanu as it is being taken is to be interpreted as that the Vridmanu is simply giving the opinion expressed by the author. So the commentator's view is to follow. His own view is the next sentence. His own view is, however, contained in part 1 of the extract, which confirms the Sambodha relationship to agnates from 8th to 14th degree, semicolon. And the author of the Mitakshara seems to have adopted the same view. This later part of the sentence, and the author of the Mitakshara seems to have adopted the same view. It is of the judgment. It is of the author of the judgment. This sentence as such is sentence of Sir Shadi. And the previous part of this sentence is in and is regarding the quotation. So the interpretation being given is that the quotation which has been done, which is of two parts, needs two shades. First is how much is the opinion of the commentator and how much is the comments of the commentator upon the original text. And it is here now when the judgment is being written, so the judge himself is taking both these aspects simultaneously, expresses it in a one sentence, of which first part relates to the first aspect and second part of the sentence relates to the second aspect. The beauty of the language, how much control over the language is to be there, and how the language in its very simple terms can take us to very, very deep layers of the thoughts, meanings, and expressions. The next sentence of this paragraph is, there is certainly no indication that he gave his sanction to the rival view. So, this sentence of the author of the judgment is conclusively of the view that the commentator's view about the original author's opinion is to be appreciated like this. Let me read this paragraph again. It is therefore clear that the event of a conflict between the ancient text writers and the commentators, the opinion of the latter must be accepted. Now, the words as some affirm used by Vridmanu in the extract quoted in the Mitakshara do not show that he himself was in favor of extending the meaning of the Sambodha to include agnates beyond 14th degree. He merely cited the opinion which was expressed by the other writer. His own view is, however, contained in part 1 of the extract, which confines the Sambodha relationship to agnates from the 8th to the 14th degree. And the author of the Mitakshara seems to have adopted the same view. There is certainly no indication that he gave his sanction to the rival view. Now we are at paragraph 6. The rule confining the world to agnates up to 14th degree has the merit of avoiding uncertainty and is also in perfect harmony with the sentiments of the people. So it is the seal of the court. It is the ratio of the judgment. The ratio of the judgment is that the rule confining the word to agnates up to 14th degree has the merit of avoiding uncertainty and is also in perfect harmony with the sentiments of the people. Two comments are here. Number one, it this will avoid uncertainty. So things will become certain, law will become certain. And the second adjective is the second feature is that this is in perfect harmony with the sentiments of the people. So people want this law, people accept this law, people are cherishing this value. And once the people are cherishing this value, and once it is also is avoiding any uncertainty, so the seal of the court is going to be in this sentence of this paragraph. The second sentence of paragraph is the opposite view would lead to incongruous result and agnate related to the 100th degree or even remoter degree would be preferred to a cognates who may be nearly related to the deceased by the tie of the blood, such as the son of the sister's son or of his father's sister. The first comment that with that view of the commentator, there will emerge an harmony, there will be certainty. And here again it is being repeated as uncertainty is a distortion. We have to avoid uncertainty. So the principle of certainty of law is being reasserted here. This reassertion, where reassertion will be required in an essay or in a judgment, is the value of writing a judgment or an essay, which follows here, and it is to be imbibed here. What is to be imbibed is that whether there is a need for reassertion, whether that need is to be fulfilled in the writing itself, and then how that reassertion shall be in a different shade of the same aspect itself. So, art of writing a paragraph in a language and art of reasserting in the judgment or the values in the background of which we had to appreciate the text of this judgment. And then now see the judgment proceeds further to evaluate the judgments of different high courts prevailing in this domain. The judgments of the high courts in India reveal a divergence of judicial opinion. See the first comment. The judgments of the high courts in India reveal a divergence of judicial opinion. So it is the necessity and so it is the importance of this judgment, as this judgment will be finally putting a seal of certainty about one particular opinion, which be taken as a judicial opinion, which is to be followed. So this is the area, this is the purpose of the judgment as well. The purpose of judgment is not only at the highest level, at the apex level, at the privy council level, is not only to settle a dispute between the parties, it is also meant for to avail the occasion and opportunity to settle the law itself. When the apex court or the privy council or the final court is writing a judgment, is making a decision, certainly it is making a decision between litigating parties. But at the same time, the opportunity is availed to settle the law itself, so that all others on this point of law, subject matter of dispute in a particular litigation before the court, shall not come for various judgments in different courts. So the judgments of the high courts in India reveal a divergence of judicial opinion. It is a comment. So here in the context of this Sambodha relationship inheritance in Hindus, whether it is to remain up till the 14th degree or it is to extend beyond, as divergent views by different high courts in India at that time. The High Court of Bombay in 10 Bombay 3723, here the quotation is to be impressed upon how the judgment shall be cited simply as it is reported. So, the High Court of the Bombay in 10 BOM full stop 3723. See how neat, how clean, how simple, and how exact, how precisely the quotation is there. So the High Court of Bombay in 10 Bombay 3723. So this is, we have to pause here and we have to learn that while we will be drafting, why we will be approaching before a court in the form of a pleadings petitions, the quotations within it shall be as precise, as short, as neat as it can be. So the High Court of Bombay in 10 Bombay 3723 interpreted the word Sambodhika to include all ignates without any limit of degree. So this is one opinion of one High Court. This rule was sanctioned by Neelkantha, the author of Vivyanam Mukha, whose authority is recognized in Gujarat. So again, it was in Bombay High Court, then it was in Gujarat state, where on the authority of Neelkantha, the this rule was being followed, being sanctioned, being sanctified. It appears that the case came from Gujarat and that the London judges were influenced by the opinion of Neelkantha. This is how it is being said, why that judgment had followed. Then he said the judgment in that case was followed by the Allahabad High Court in 32 Allahabad 3942, 5942, which was governed by the Mitakshara school. Its view has, however, been dissented from by the Madras High Court, who is in their judgment in 1917 Madras 8725 has pronounced against the extension of the Sambodhika relationship beyond 14th degree. So here are the two high courts, Bombay High Court and Madras High Court, who are taking divergent views. So it is this divergence which has been pointed out at the outset above. The lordships have considered all relevant cases which contain data on the subject, but those data were not necessary for determining the dispute between the parties. It is being indicated by their lordship when it is read, means the authors themselves. They have considered all the data, but they say that data is not necessary for determination of the dispute, so that data is being not reproduced here. It would mean that the judgment indicates well that they have a data, different data, but that data is not necessary for determination, so the same is being not reproduced here. In the judgment of this board means Privy Council. In the judgment of the Privy Council in 1918 PC 496, that are observations to the effect that those who claim to the reversionary rights must bring themselves within the necessary number of degrees, namely 14. So it is a rule of precedent. The previous judgment of the Privy Council is being taken as an precedent here for this judgment. The suit was, however, dismissed on the ground that the plaintiffs have failed to prove that they were related to the person who a state with claimed by them. So the information is being given that the previous judgment of the Privy Council, which is being quoted as a precedent, was resulted into dismissal of the suit, but not on the point of the spender relationship degree, but as the relationship even could not be proved at all. So that authority in which there is a mention indicative, conclusive, that spindle relationship is to be extended only up till 14th degree, but that judgment, in fact, was ultimately determined and extinguished the dispute between the parties as the parties failed to prove the relationship also. Once the parties failed to prove the relationship, so the question of degree and importance of determination of degree as such had resided to a secondary state, and that is why it is being mentioned like this. Up now the last paragraph. Upon an, upon an examination of the available texts of Hindu law and the judicial decisions on the subject, Lordship have reached the conclusion that according to Mitakshara school of Hindu law, it governs the case. Sambodhka include any those agnates whose relationship to the deceased extends from 8th to the 14th degree, and in the absence of any such agnate, the estate devolves upon the bandhus. So it is a conclusion. So judgment is concluding. It is specific conclusion. There is no ambiguity in what the judgment has reached at, what is the decree, what is the final pronouncement, what is precisely the judgment that is also being expressed specifically. The result is then, after the conclusion, what is the result? The result is that appeal should be allowed. The order of the remand made by the Court of Judicial Commissioner set aside, and the judgment and the degree of the court of first instance restored. Their lordship will humbly advise the majesty accordingly. So see what the Privy Council does. It advises the excellency, and ultimate seal is of the majesty, means the queen. But there the constitutional precedents are that advice is accepted. So impliedly, it is the final pronouncement, binding pronouncement in itself. However, it is being through this state of sanctions. The respondent must pay the cost incurred by the appellant here as well as in the Court of Appeal in India. This is the judgment. I would like that each one of us shall be through this judgment time and again and attempt what summary one can make. Attempt how, if he had that opportunity, he would have expressed himself. With it, we will be imbibing the values of this judgment, and also we will be inculcating the habit of imbibing the values of such model judgments. Thank you very much.